Hey, boy! What does a black monkey know about reading?
Bradley Connors laughed. 34. Lead engineer at Hartwell Vance Engineering in Boston. The whole 41st floor heard him. 6 engineers in the glass conference room turned to watch. Nobody said a word.
I read just fine, sir.
Yates Robinson stopped walking. 34, too. Black.
I understand, sir. Yeah, then go back to the projects, boy. Leave engineering to white folks.
Bradley grabbed the napkin off Yates's tray.
What's this scribble, boy? Daddy teach you? Oh, wait.
He crushed the napkin, threw it.
You don't
Yates
have
in the
one.
chest. The whole room laughed. What none of them knew was this. That crumpled napkin held the answer to a $5 million problem they'd been failing to solve for 6 weeks. And Bradley just threw it on the floor.
Let me take you back 6 hours.
5:15 in the morning. Boston was still dark. Yates Robinson stepped out of a small apartment in Dorchester. He pulled his jacket tight against the November wind. Inside, his 18-year-old daughter Imani was already at the kitchen table, books open, SAT prep. She didn't look up. "Daddy, you forgot your notebook again." She slid a small leather moleskin across the table. Worn corners, coffee stain on the cover. He smiled. He tucked it into his back pocket. "Thanks, baby." "Dad, did you finish reading it?" He paused at the door. He knew which "it" she meant. The German engineering paper he'd been working through for 3 weeks. "Almost." She finally looked up. "You should show somebody." "Show who, Imani?" "Anybody." He didn't answer. He closed the door behind him. By 6:30, Yates was at the Hartwell Vance lobby. Marvin, the security guard, fist-bumped him at the desk. "Why money? What's the word today?" "Today's word is patience, Marv." Every day's word, brother." He loaded the donut cart. 2 dozen glazed, 3 dozen old-fashioned, 48 coffees. Same order every Tuesday for 6 years. The elevator climbed to 41. Yates pulled the moleskin from his pocket. He flipped to the page he'd been staring at for 21 days. A bridge. A formula. A German phrase circled 3 times in red pen. For 3 weeks, the engineers on this floor had been arguing about a calibration problem. Their cameras and microphones in the hallway picked up everything. He'd heard the panic. He'd heard the numbers. $5 million. 4 days left. He'd heard them read the German specs out loud in their bad American accents. He'd heard them miss the same word every single time. Today, he was going to leave a napkin on the conference table. No name, no explanation. Just the correct formula. He wasn't going to ask for credit. He wasn't going to ask for a job. He just wanted the bridge to be safe. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. He stepped out onto the 41st floor with a tray of donuts in one hand and a $5 million answer in the other. But before we get to that conference room, let me show you who Yates Robinson really was, because the engineers on 41 had no idea. Rewind to the bodega on the corner of Blue Hill Avenue. 6 o'clock that same morning. Yates stopped for his pre-shift coffee, same as every day. An elderly woman in a heavy wool coat stood at the counter. She was holding a prescription bottle. Her hands were shaking. The pharmacist behind the plastic window was getting frustrated. "Ma'am, I don't speak Russian. I need you to point at what you need." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. Yates set down his coffee. He walked over. He read the label gently, in fluent Russian. "This is for your blood pressure. 1 pill a day, after food. The pharmacy closes at 9. She grabbed his hand with both of hers. She wouldn't let go. She kept saying, "Spasibo, spasibo," over and over. He nodded. He picked up his coffee. He walked out. He didn't tell anyone. He never did. 6:12 in the morning. The Green Line platform at Park Street. A young man with a backpack was muttering in French. Lost. Frustrated. Trying to find Harvard. Yates pointed. He switched to French without missing a beat. Take the red line. 3 stops. Get off at Harvard Square. The young man stared at him. You speak French? A little. You speak French well. Yates just smiled. The train came. He got on. He pulled a book from inside his jacket. The cover was worn soft, the spine cracked from years of being opened. A German hardcover. Schopenhauer. He marked a passage with a strip of gum foil. He read 4 pages before his stop. 6:28. The Hartwell Vance elevator. 2 men in suits got on at the 8th floor. They didn't notice him. They were too busy talking in Mandarin. The Pattison account closes Thursday. Don't tell anyone yet. Did the wife find out? She doesn't know about the second apartment. Keep it that way. Yates' face didn't move. He understood every word. He stepped off at 41 without a glance. He didn't tell anyone. He never did. Now, here's what I want you to understand. This man was raised on a dirt road in the Mississippi Delta. He never finished college. He'd never been to Europe. He'd never had a tutor in his life. But he spoke 5 languages fluently. 5. Russian, French, German, Mandarin, and the King's English, when he chose to use it. He had read every book in the Boston Public Library's German philosophy section. Twice. He had read engineering papers that cost $200 apiece, borrowed 3 at a time, every weekend, for 9 years. He had taught himself bridge mechanics from a 1923 German textbook he found in a used bookstore in Cambridge for $4. And the men on the 41st floor, the men with Ivy League degrees and $400 haircuts, they had no idea. Because Yates wore a delivery uniform. Because Yates was black. Because nobody had ever once stopped to ask him what he was reading. All right, at this point, I'm already hooked. Like, we're talking about a black man with a brain that could run circles around half the engineers in that building, and you can see it in every single move he makes. Nobody had to say it out loud. It was just there. And nobody at his job had a clue. Sit with that for a second. That's wild. 6:30. He stepped off the elevator with his cart. Bradley Connors was already in the conference room, yelling at a junior engineer about the same calibration error they'd been failing to fix for 6 weeks. Yates walked past with the donuts. Nobody looked up. Nobody ever did. But today was different. Today the napkin was in his back pocket, folded twice, waiting. He just needed to find the right moment to leave it on that table. So how does a man like Yates end up delivering donuts at 34? Let me take you back to 1999, a small town in the Mississippi Delta. Yates was 8 years old. The power had been cut again. His mother couldn't pay the bill that month. His grandmother lit a kerosene lamp on the kitchen table. Her name was Pearl. Everyone called her Nana Pearl. She was 64 years old. She had been a literacy teacher in that town for 40 years. She set a dictionary on the table. The cover was held together with masking tape. 3 new words tonight, baby. 3 new words, and I braid your hair tomorrow. Yates opened the dictionary. He picked 3 words. He read them out loud. He wrote them down. That was every night. For 10 years. When Yates was 16, his mother died. A stroke, no warning. She was 42 years old. Nana Pearl raised him alone after that. She told him one thing, over and over, every single morning before school. Words are armor, baby. Words are armor. They can take your money. They can take your roof. They can't take what you carry up here. She'd tap his temple. Then she'd send him out the door. He started community college at 18, linguistics major, full scholarship. But at 19, Nana Pearl broke her hip. He dropped out. He came home to take care of her. For 5 years, he worked nights at a warehouse and read to her in the evenings. German, Russian, French. She didn't understand the words. She just liked the sound of him reading. She died at 88. He was 24. He moved to Boston for a fresh start. He took the delivery job for the steady hours. Then Imani came along. He raised her alone too. She's 18 now. SAT prep on the kitchen table, top of her class, spelling bee champion 3 years running. But last spring, something changed. She came home crying. Some kid at school had said, Imani's dad is just a donut guy. She stopped telling people what her father did. She stopped bringing friends home. Yates noticed. He didn't say anything, but that night he started filling the moleskin. He didn't want a promotion. He didn't want money. He wanted his daughter to see him be brave enough to use his voice. Just once. So she'd know it was allowed. 3 days before the napkin incident, Tuesday afternoon, 2:15. The Hartwell Vance hallway smelled like printer toner and stress. Trevor Halpern came around the corner with his arms full. 28 years old, junior engineer, 6 months on the job. He was carrying a stack of Japanese technical documents, original Japanese with English annotations stapled to the back. He didn't see Yates coming the other way with an empty cart. The papers hit the floor like a snowstorm. 20 pages, 30, spreading across the polished concrete. Oh no. Trevor dropped to his knees. He started grabbing pages in a panic. He was sweating through his shirt. Yates set the cart against the wall. He bent down to help. He picked up the pages one at a time. He stacked them neatly. He glanced at each one as he handed them over. He didn't mean to read. It just happened. His eyes did it automatically. Then he stopped on page 3. He read it twice. He looked up at Trevor. Hey, man, I'm not trying to step on toes, but this conversion is off. Trevor blinked. What? The torque value here. The original is in Newton meters. Your annotation has it converted to foot-pounds, but the conversion factor is wrong. You're off by 1.36. That's a real big gap, brother. Trevor's mouth opened. It stayed open. Yates handed him the page. He stood up. He grabbed his cart. Just thought you should know. Have a good one. He walked away. Trevor stayed on the floor for a full minute. Then he stood up. He went back to his desk. He pulled out a calculator. He did the math 3 times. The delivery guy was right. Trevor sat there staring at the page for 10 minutes. He didn't know what to do with that information. Finally, he walked to Bradley's office. He knocked on the open door. Hey, Bradley, quick thing. The delivery guy, the black guy with the donut cart, he just caught a conversion error on the Tokyo specs. On page 3, the torque value. He was right. Bradley didn't look up from his monitor. He what? He spotted the mistake. I checked. He was correct. Bradley laughed. He still didn't look up. Trevor, buddy, listen to yourself. The donut guy didn't catch anything. He probably saw a number you underlined, or he got lucky. Don't be naive. But the math. Drop it, Trev. We've got real problems. Trevor stood there for another second. He almost said something else. He didn't. He walked back to his desk. He thought about it the rest of the day. That night, Yates went home. He helped Imani with her pre-algebra at the kitchen table. They ate leftover spaghetti. She caught him mouthing something in Japanese under his breath. She didn't say what language she thought it was. She just watched. "Daddy? You okay?" "I'm good, baby." "You were saying something." "Just thinking out loud." She nodded. She went back to her homework. He sat there with his coffee. He stared at the back of his moleskin. He'd been hoping somebody would say something today. Even just a thank you, a nod, anything. He'd been hoping he was finally being seen. But Trevor never came back. And Bradley didn't even know his name. Yates closed the notebook. He carried the dishes to the sink. In 3 days, that napkin was going to make somebody listen. He just didn't know who. The next morning, Bradley was waiting for him. Word travels fast in an office. By Wednesday, half the engineers had heard that the donut guy caught a torque error. Most of them laughed. A few were uneasy. Bradley was furious, so he decided to teach Yates a lesson. It started small. Yates was setting down the coffee tray. Bradley leaned back in his chair. "Hey, donut boy, quick question. What's the German word for delivery?" Yates didn't look up. He just kept pouring. "Lieferung?" The room went quiet for half a second. Bradley blinked. Then he laughed too loud. No. He's heard us say it. He's parroting, that's all that is." Yates kept pouring. He didn't argue. He moved on to the next desk. But Bradley wasn't done. An hour later, in the break room, Bradley made a show of ordering coffee and broken Mandarin from a colleague. Just for fun, he said. He butchered the tones on purpose. Then he turned to Yates, who was restocking the creamer. "Hey, donut man, you understand what I just said?" Yates set the carton down. He looked at Bradley. "Your tones were off, sir. You ordered hot pepper, not coffee." The 5 people in the break room went silent. Bradley's face turned red. He forced a laugh. "Yeah, okay. Parlor trick. Saw it on YouTube, probably. Get back to work." Yates walked out. By lunchtime, Bradley couldn't let it go. Yates was sitting in the corner of the break room. He had his lunch on a paper plate. He was reading a thick German hardcover. Heidegger, Being and Time. Bradley walked in with 2 of his guys. He saw the book. He walked straight over. "What's this? Prop reading?" He snatched the book from Yates's hands. "You faking it for the ladies, donut man? Bet you can't read a word of this." Yates set down his fork. Slowly. He looked Bradley dead in the eye. Then he started reciting, from memory, in German. 3 full sentences. He didn't blink. He didn't stutter. The German came out clean and sharp, like he'd been speaking it his whole life. Then he translated it into English, word for word. The question of the meaning of being must be formulated. If it is a fundamental question, or indeed the fundamental question, it requires suitable transparency. The break room froze. Bradley's mouth opened, closed, opened again. He couldn't lose in front of an audience. So he switched tactics. He went for the throat. "Yeah? Then why are you delivering donuts, smart guy? Huh? Why can't you afford a real career? Bet your daddy was the same. Bet your whole family lives off welfare. Stick to what you know, monkey." The room held its breath. Yates didn't say a word. He took the book back from Bradley's hand. He closed it carefully. He picked up his lunch. He walked out. He kept his head up the whole way. He went straight to the bathroom on the 41st floor. He locked himself in the last stall. He put his hand flat against the door. He closed his eyes. He thought about Nana Pearl. He thought about Imani. Words are armor, baby. Words our armor. He took one deep breath. Then he straightened his uniform. He walked back out. He went back to work. He didn't tell anyone, but Trevor Halpern had seen the whole thing. And Trevor was tired of looking at his shoes. Thursday afternoon, the day before the deadline. Let me explain what was actually at stake. Hartwell Vance had a $5 million contract to retrofit the Beacon Harbor Bridge. The bridge was built in 1923, a cantilever truss, old steel, beautiful design. The job was to install a network of vibration sensors. The sensors would monitor the bridge in real time. If a beam started to stress, the system would catch it before the bridge ever failed. The sensors came from Switzerland, from a firm called Engelhardt Müller System. The lead client was a man named Klaus Engelhardt, 68 years old, ran the company for 32 years. He didn't suffer fools. For 6 weeks, the calibration tests had been failing, every single one. The sensors were sending back numbers that didn't match reality. The bridge inspectors were getting nervous. The state was threatening to pull the contract. Bradley had been promising fixes that didn't materialize. The team was burning out. The whole thing was about to collapse. At 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon, Klaus dialed in from Zurich. He appeared on the big screen in conference room B. White beard, half glasses, voice flat as ice. Mr. Connors, you have until Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern. If your team cannot solve this, we cancel the contract. Hartwell Vance absorbs the $5 million loss, and we never work with you again. Am I clear? Bradley swallowed. Crystal clear, Klaus. Good. The call ended. Bradley slammed his laptop shut. He stood up. He walked out without a word. The other engineers scattered to their desks. The room emptied. The whiteboard was a mess of equations, half-finished coffee cups everywhere. A printed copy of the original German specifications sat crumpled on the floor by the trash can. Yates walked in to clean. He'd been listening to that call from the hallway. He didn't mean to. He just was. He picked up the cups one at a time. He wiped the table. He bent down to grab the crumpled German spec from the floor. He smoothed it out. He read it. Then he stood up and walked to the whiteboard. He read the English working translation the team had been using all week. His stomach dropped. Because right there, in black marker, in the very first line, somebody had translated the German phrase Lastverteilungsfaktor unter harmonischer Resonanz as just load distribution coefficient. They had dropped 4 words. Unter harmonischer Resonanz, under harmonic resonance. It wasn't a typo. It was the whole problem. The German specs were asking for a dynamic calculation, one that accounted for the bridge's natural vibration frequency under moving traffic loads. The team had been calculating it as a static load. That's why every single test had failed. It had to fail. The math was solving for the wrong physics. Yates stood there for a long minute. He could walk out. He could just clean up and leave. Nobody would ever know. But the bridge would fail the deadline, and eventually, somebody could get hurt. He pulled a clean napkin from the coffee cart. He took a pen from his shirt pocket. He wrote the corrected formula in clean, careful handwriting. He added 3 lines of plain English underneath, explaining the harmonic resonance factor. He folded the napkin in half. He set it in the center of the conference table. He initialed the bottom corner, YR. Then he picked up his cart and walked out. He had no idea who would find it first. Bradley found it first. Friday morning, 8:45. The whole team was already in the conference room, drowning in panic. Klaus was calling at noon. They had nothing. Bradley walked in with his coffee. He saw the folded napkin in the middle of the table. He picked it up. He read it. He laughed. Guys, look at this. The donut man left us a love letter. He's trying to teach us engineering now. He held it up. He turned it around so everyone could see the handwriting. That's when Yates walked in to refill the cups. Bradley saw him. His smile got wider. Hey, boy, what does a black monkey know about reading? The whole room laughed. You already know this part. Bradley crumpled the napkin. He threw it. It hit Yates in the chest and rolled under a chair. Yates picked up the empty cups. He didn't say a word. He turned and walked out. But this time, somebody was walking in. Eleanor Whitfield, 58 years old, Vice President of Engineering, 31 years at Hartwell Vance. She'd been looking for Bradley. She saw the laughter. She saw the crumpled napkin on the floor. She didn't ask what was funny. She bent down. She picked it up. She smoothed it on the conference table. She read it. The room went quiet. She read it again, slowly. Then she looked up. Bradley, where did this come from? He was still chuckling. The donut guy left it. Can you believe? Stop talking. She walked to the whiteboard. She picked up a black marker. She started working through the formula. Her hand moved fast. She muttered something under her breath. In German. The team didn't even know she spoke German. She'd never said. Halfway through, she stopped. She set the marker down on the tray. She turned around. He's right. Bradley blinked. What? He's right. We've been calculating the wrong physics for 6 weeks. We dropped 4 words from the spec. He caught it. On a napkin. Eleanor, come on, it's a... Bradley, sit down. The whole room stared. He sat down. Eleanor walked to the door. She opened it. She called out into the hallway. Yates, Mr. Robinson, can you come back in here, please? Yates appeared in the doorway, coffee tray still in his hands. He looked at her. He looked at Bradley. He set the tray down on the side table. Eleanor pointed at the whiteboard. Walk me through your reasoning. From the top. Take your time. So he did. He spoke for 2 minutes. He switched mid-sentence from English to the German technical terms on the original spec. He explained the harmonic resonance factor. He explained why the static calculation would never work. He explained how to recalibrate the sensors in under 3 hours. When he finished, the room was completely silent. Eleanor nodded once. She turned to face her team. From this moment forward, Mr. Robinson is leading the calibration for this project. Bradley, you support him. Or you can go clean out your desk. 20 minutes later, Eleanor's office. The door was closed. The blinds were drawn. The sound of the floor outside faded to a hum. She poured 2 cups of black coffee from a glass pot on the side table. The steam rose between them. She slid 1 mug across the desk to Yates. She didn't start with the project. She didn't start with the contract. She didn't even start with the napkin. She looked at him over the rim of her cup. Her voice came out quiet. Mr. Robinson, who taught you to use your mind that way? He sat very still. He had been ready for technical questions, ready for paperwork, ready for anyone to take the credit away from him. He was not ready for that question. Nobody had ever asked him that. Not a teacher, not a manager, not a single person in 34 years. He almost couldn't answer. My grandmother, ma'am. Her name was Pearl. She was a literacy teacher in Mississippi. She raised me after my mother passed away. I was 16 years old. And the engineering? The German? Books. Library books. Used bookstores in Cambridge. Online papers when I could afford the subscription. I read what I could pay for. And then I read what I couldn't.
Eleanor smiled. A small, tired smile.
My mother was a school librarian in rural Maine. When I told my high school counselor I wanted to be a structural engineer, he laughed at me, right in my face. He said women don't do math. He told me to consider nursing instead. She set down her coffee. My mother told me one thing that night. She said, "Eleanor, then prove him wrong with grace." I have thought about that sentence every single day for 41 years.
Yates's eyes went glassy. He looked down at the coffee in his hands. She didn't say anything else. She let the silence sit between them. She didn't rush him. She didn't fill the air with pity. After a long moment, she opened a folder on her desk. She slid a single sheet of paper across to him.
This is a consulting contract. 90 days, paid. Full benefits starting Monday. We match your current salary plus 40%. Health insurance for you and your daughter. Dental, vision. After 90 days, we sit down and talk about a permanent position. With a title. With credential sponsorship, if that's something you want. Yates stared at the paper for a long time. His hands were shaking a little. He set the coffee mug down on the desk so he wouldn't spill it on the contract. "Ma'am, I have a daughter, Imani. She's 18. She's heading to college in the fall. Steady is everything for me right now. I can't lose Steady. Not now. Not after everything." "Mr. Robinson, that is exactly why I am offering this. Bring her in next week. I want her to see her father's office. I want her to see the name on the door." His jaw tightened. He looked away toward the window. He took a slow breath. He let it out even slower. "I just left a napkin on a table." "Mr. Robinson, the world has needed to read what's on your napkin for a very long time." He reached into his back pocket. He pulled out the moleskin, the worn corners, the coffee stain on the cover, the bent spine. He set it on her desk. He slid it toward her with both hands. "There's more, ma'am. I've been working on it for 3 weeks, just in case anybody ever asked me." She opened it. 3 weeks of flawless engineering notes. In English. In German. Diagrams she could have published in her own field. Sitting in a delivery driver's back pocket the whole time. She turned the pages slowly. One, then another, then another. She closed the notebook. She closed her eyes for 1 full second. When she opened them, she just nodded. "Welcome to the team." Friday at noon. The call with Klaus.
Eleanor stood in the hallway outside conference room B. Bradley was waiting for her. His face was red. His tie was crooked.
"Eleanor, you cannot put a delivery driver on a $5 million client call. He has no degree. He has no credentials. The optics are insane." She looked at him. She didn't raise her voice. "He has the answer, Bradley. That is the only credential in the room right now. Sit down." He sat down. The conference room was full. 11 engineers, 3 vice presidents, 2 attorneys. Yates Robinson, in a delivery uniform, sitting at the head of the table next to Eleanor. 12 o'clock exactly. The screen lit up. Klaus Engelhardt appeared from Zurich. White beard, half glasses, same flat voice. "Eleanor, I trust you have something for me." "I do, Klaus. I'd like to introduce Mr. Yates Robinson. He's our lead consultant on the harmonic resonance correction." Klaus stared at the screen. He looked Yates up and down. He took in the uniform. He didn't smile. "Mr. Robinson, show me what you have." Yates leaned forward. He folded his hands on the table. Then he answered, in German, Not just German. Engineering German. Technical register. Perfect grammar. The kind of German you only speak if you've spent 10,000 hours in it. Klaus's eyebrows climbed about an inch. For the next 22 minutes, Yates walked Klaus through the entire correction. He switched into English when he needed to draw on the shared screen. He switched back into German when he needed to be exact about a tolerance specification. He pulled up the original 1923 blueprints of the Beacon Harbor Bridge from a public archive in Germany. He showed the harmonic frequencies of the historical truss design. He explained how the new sensors needed to be calibrated against those exact frequencies, not against generic load tables. He drew the corrected diagram in real time on the shared screen. Klaus interrupted him twice. Sharp questions, hard ones. Yates answered without a pause, both times.
Bradley sat against the back wall. His head was in his hands. Then Klaus asked the question.
Mr. Robinson, wo haben Sie studiert?
Where did you study?
Yates looked into the camera.
Bei meiner Großmutter in Mississippi.
With my grandmother in Mississippi. The room didn't move. Klaus stared at the screen. He didn't blink for 5 full seconds. Then he laughed. One dry, surprised laugh. He took off his glasses. He rubbed his eyes. In English, softer than before.
Your grandmother was a better engineer than half of mine.
Eleanor didn't react. Her face stayed steady, but under the table her hand tightened on her pen. Klaus closed his laptop slowly. He folded his glasses. He set them down. We proceed. Mr. Robinson is the primary technical liaison for this project. The contract continues. We expect calibration complete by Monday morning. He looked into the camera one more time. Mr. Robinson, when you are ready, I want to fly you to Zurich. We have a position for you. Bring your daughter. Engelhardt Müller pays for everything. The screen went dark. For 10 seconds, nobody in the room moved. Then Eleanor stood up. She walked over to Yates. She didn't shake his hand. She placed her hand on his shoulder. She squeezed once. Thank you. That was all she said. Yates couldn't speak. He just nodded. Trevor Halpern, the junior engineer, pushed his chair back. He walked across the room to Yates. His face was pale. I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson. I saw what he did to you on Wednesday, in the break room, with the book. I should have spoken up. I should have spoken up a long time ago. Yates looked at him. He put a hand on Trevor's shoulder. You're speaking now, son. That counts. Trevor nodded. He couldn't say anything else. Bradley stood up against the back wall. He looked at Eleanor. He looked at Yates. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He walked out of the conference room without a word. He never came back. All right, I need to pause here, because, y'all, this man walked into a $5 million client call wearing a delivery uniform and walked out with a job offer in Zurich. And he didn't gloat, he didn't smile, he just put his hand on the kid who was sorry. That's the energy I want for myself. That's a man who knew his worth before anybody else did. The team sat around the table for a long minute after the call. Nobody knew what to say. Eleanor finally broke the silence. She turned to the room. We have until Monday morning. Mr. Robinson is going to walk us through the recalibration this afternoon. I want everyone in this room paying attention. Take notes. Ask questions. Treat him like the senior engineer he is, because that is what he is. Heads nodded around the table. Yates stood up. He walked to the whiteboard. He picked up a marker. He started teaching. He taught for 3 hours straight. He didn't sit down once.
The team filled 4 full whiteboards with corrected calculations. By 4 o'clock, the new calibration model was finished. By 8 o'clock that night, the first sensor test passed. By 11, they all passed. Eleanor sent the final report to Zurich at 11:40. She sat at her desk after she hit send. She looked out the window at the Boston skyline, the lights of the Beacon Harbor Bridge in the distance. She thought about her mother in rural Maine. She thought about a woman named Pearl in Mississippi who'd never get to see this moment. She thought about all the people who would walk past Yates Robinson tomorrow in the lobby of this building in a delivery uniform and never know who he was. She picked up her phone. She called Margaret Sloan in HR. Margaret, I need you to draft something for me, tonight. A new fellowship program. I'm going to call it the Pearl Robinson Fellowship. I'll send you the details in the morning. She hung up. She turned off her desk lamp. She went home. The bridge was safe, and so was something else. 4 weeks later, the grand boardroom on the 42nd floor of the Hancock Tower, the biggest room in the building, floor-to-ceiling glass, Boston laid out below like a map. It was packed. Every engineer, every partner, every junior associate. And for the first time in the firm's 73-year history, every member of the delivery, custodial, and security staff was formally invited. Marvin from the front desk was there in a borrowed suit, the night cleaning crew, the mailroom kids, all of them. Eleanor had sent them personal invitations, handwritten. Imani Robinson sat in the front row. 18 years old, a small navy dress, her hair in twists, a Hartwell Vance lapel pin on her chest that Eleanor had handed her that morning. Her eyes were wide. Her father stood at the side of the room in a charcoal gray suit, the first suit he'd ever owned. Eleanor had told him not to wear his delivery uniform. He had spent $200 at a department store the night before. Imani had picked out the tie. The room quieted. Eleanor stepped to the podium. She didn't have notes. She had 6 sentences. 6 weeks ago, this firm was about to lose a $5 million contract because we had built a culture that ignored 7 people in this very room. The room went still. One of those people corrected our mistake on a napkin. We threw the napkin away. You could hear the air conditioning. That was the worst engineering decision this firm has made in my 31 years here. A few people looked at their shoes. Today, we are going to be the kind of firm where that does not happen again. She paused. And we start by giving credit where credit was earned. She turned. She lifted a frame from a small table behind the podium. She held it up. Inside the frame was the napkin, the original, smoothed flat, the corrected formula in Yates's careful handwriting. His initials in the corner, Y.R. A small brass plate underneath, engraved. The Robinson Correction, November 2025. Saved this company $5 million. Saved us from ourselves. The room broke into applause. Eleanor held up her hand. This frame is going on the wall in the main lobby, at eye level, where every visitor, every delivery driver, every custodian, every junior engineer will see it before they see anything else in this building. Because we don't get to forget. Not ever. Then she said one more thing. Mr. Robinson, would you come up here, please? Yates walked up. He stood at the podium. He looked out at the room. He looked at Imani in the front row. He took a breath. I want to thank a few people. Eleanor Whitfield, for asking the question nobody else asked. Marvin at security, for 6 years of fist bumps. Miss Carla on the night cleaning crew. She once asked me what I was reading. Marvin wiped his eyes from the back of the room. I want to talk about my grandmother. Her name was Pearl. She raised me in Mississippi. She was a literacy teacher for 40 years. She used to tell me, "Words are armor, baby. Words are armor. They can take your money, they can take your roof. They can't take what you carry up here." His voice steadied. She died when I was 24. She never saw a moment like this. She would have loved every second of it. He paused. He looked at his daughter. "Imani, baby girl." She sat up straighter. "I'm sorry it took me 34 years to use my voice in a room like this. I'm sorry you had to watch your daddy be small for so long." Her eyes filled. "But you don't have to wait. You can use your voice from the start, from right now. Use it loud, baby. Use it everywhere. You don't owe anybody quiet." She nodded fast. The tears came down. She didn't wipe them. Her best friend Aisha was sitting next to her. Aisha leaned in and whispered something. Imani turned to her. She didn't whisper back. She said it out loud, clear enough for the front 3 rows to hear. "That's my dad." The room was already crying. That broke it the rest of the way. Eleanor came back to the podium. She put a hand on Yates's shoulder. He stepped back. "I have one more announcement." She let the room settle. Effective today, Hartwell Vance Engineering is launching the Pearl Robinson Linguistic Engineering Fellowship, named for the woman who taught Yates Robinson everything he knows. Yates put his hand over his mouth. He looked at the floor. 5 paid fellowships per year, open to non-traditional candidates with demonstrated linguistic and technical talent. No degree required, no background required, full salary, full benefits, full credential sponsorship if they want it. The first fellowship class is announced today. 5 names. She read the names. 3 were people the audience had never heard of. 2 were already in the room. One was a night custodian named Jean-Baptiste Joseph. He had emigrated from Haiti 12 years ago. He had been a self-taught structural engineer in Port-au-Prince before the earthquake destroyed his school. Jean-Baptiste stood up slowly. He couldn't speak. He just nodded over and over. The room stood for him. That's when the door at the back opened. Klaus Engelhardt walked in. He had flown in from Zurich that morning. Nobody told Yates he was coming. He walked straight to the podium. He carried a small package wrapped in brown paper. He handed it to Yates. He said it quietly, but the microphone caught it anyway. "Mr. Robinson, this was my grandfather's. He was an apprentice on the Zurich railways. He never went to school. He carried this book his entire life. He would have wanted you to have it." Yates unwrapped it carefully. A worn, leather-bound German engineering treatise from 1923. Die Statik des Brückenbaus. The Statics of Bridge Construction. Yates couldn't speak. He just shook Klaus's hand. He held it a long time. Klaus turned to the room. He spoke in his careful, accented English. "Engineering is not credentials. Engineering is care. Mr. Robinson cared about a bridge he would never cross. That is the standard. That is all of it." He stepped back from the podium. The room stood up. The applause lasted almost 2 minutes. In the back row, a woman from HR was quietly typing notes on her phone. Margaret Sloan. She made one more entry in her file. Bradley Connors. Resigned. Joined a competitor in Atlanta. Eleanor's note. "I hope he uses this. I hope he learns. We don't get to be done with this kind of work." Eleanor closed the meeting. People filed out slowly. Most of them stopped at the lobby on their way down. The framed napkin was already hanging on the wall. Imani stood in front of it for a long time. She didn't speak. She just read her father's handwriting. Then she pulled out her phone. She took a picture. She sent it to her group chat at school. She typed 3 words underneath. "That's my dad." 6 months later, spring in Boston. Cherry blossoms in the courtyard outside the Hancock Tower. The Charles River shining in the morning sun. Yates Robinson stepped off the elevator on the 41st floor. He wasn't carrying a coffee tray. He was carrying a leather briefcase, the one Imani bought him for his birthday. His office was 3 doors down from Eleanor's. His name was on the door. Yates Robinson, Senior Technical Translation and Cross-Cultural Engineering Specialist. The moleskin still sat in his back pocket. Some things he wasn't going to change. He had built something in those 6 months, something nobody asked him to build. Twice a week, after hours, he ran a free language and engineering workshop in the building's basement conference room, open to anyone on the Hartwell Vance staff who wanted in. Delivery drivers, custodians, security guards, mailroom kids. The first cohort had 18 students. A second cohort was already on the wait list. He taught German technical reading, Spanish, basic Mandarin, French. Whatever they needed. One of his students was Jean-Baptiste Joseph, the Haitian custodian. He had been promoted into the 2nd class of Pearl Robinson Fellows. Eleanor had signed his offer letter herself. Yates clapped him on the shoulder the morning he started. "The next Napkin, brother." Jean-Baptiste laughed. He couldn't stop smiling all day. Imani was a senior in high school now. She had started a school newspaper that spring. Her first article ran on the front page. The headline was 3 words: "What my father reads." She had interviewed him for it. She had taken a photograph of his moleskin. She had quoted Nana Pearl in the 2nd paragraph. She put the byline under her full name, Imani Pearl Robinson. She showed the paper to every classmate who had ever laughed at her. 3 of them apologized. 1 of them cried. Bradley Connors, you may have wondered. He had emailed Eleanor exactly once, 3 months after he left. A single line. "You were right. I'm working on it." Eleanor printed the email out. She pinned it to the wall above her desk. She left it there. There's one more moment I want to leave you with. On a Tuesday morning in April, Yates was walking through the Hartwell Vance lobby on his way to a meeting. He had a coffee in one hand and a folder under his arm. He passed the framed napkin on the wall. He didn't stop. He had stopped 100 times already. But somebody else had stopped. A young woman, mid-20s, Latina, new on the delivery route. A coffee tray balanced on one hand. She was reading the brass plate under the frame. She was reading it slowly, twice. Yates walked past her. He gave her a small nod. She turned and watched him go. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The cycle was already starting again. Somewhere in that building right now, there was another Yates Robinson, carrying coffee, carrying a brain nobody was reading, waiting for someone to ask. I told you this story for a reason. Most of us walk past somebody every single day that we never bothered to read. The doorman, the barista, the delivery driver, the woman at the dry cleaner, the custodian emptying our trash can after we leave at night. We make a verdict on them in 5 seconds, based on a uniform, based on an accent, based on the color of their skin. And we are wrong almost every time. Yates Robinson is in every city. He's on every corner. He's in your building right now. The question isn't whether he exists. The question is whether you're paying attention. So here's what I want you to do this week. Find one person you walk past every day. The doorman, the cashier, the driver. Ask them their name. Ask them what they're reading. Ask them where they came from. You will not believe what's been standing in your hallway. If this story moved you, leave a comment with the name of somebody you've underestimated.
Like the video if you believe talent is everywhere, not just in fancy offices. Share it with one person who needs to be seen today. And subscribe, because next week we're telling another one. And if you run a company, start your own Pearl Robinson Fellowship. 5 seats a year, no degree required, just talent. 5 seats a year would change this country.
I'll leave you with one line, the one Nana Pearl taught Yates, the one he taught his daughter, the one I'm giving you now.
A folded napkin, $5 million, and a man nobody in that building had ever bothered to look in the eyes. 6 years, Jed Robinson carried coffee down that hallway, and not one of them ever asked his name. You know what stayed with me? It's not the contract, it's not jewelry. It's that her, a black woman in the Mississippi Delta, with a dictionary held together by masking tape, built every single piece of that ballroom moment. 3 new words in the night for 10 years by kerosene light. She never saw it happen. She died before any of it. But here's the thing. Talent was never the rare thing in that story. Attention was. These were always brilliant. The words that refused to read him. So let me ask you this. How many Jed Robinson have you got past this year? How many people have you decided you already understood in 5 seconds? And the 100th one, who in their lives is waiting for you to be the person you finally asked. Drop a name in the comments, someone you underestimated. Don't scroll, type it, subscribe, because next week we're telling another story the world tried to throw away. And remember what Pearl said, words are armor. Put yours on tomorrow and hand somebody else theirs.